Tribune says court rejects suit over net neutrality rules. This happened yesterday. A federal appeals court rejected a lawsuit by Verizon and Metro PCS to challenge the federal government's communications rules, the FCC's communications rules. Now, what I want to point out is, like many newspaper sites, this was a decision between me and the newspaper site, an economic decision about how I would get access. Now, some newspapers want to charge for access. Others don't. I was happy the Minneapolis Star-Tribune allowed me access because I wasn't about to pay. How do they pay for it? They have a couple ads in here. Apparently Bill Mayer is going to be at Mystic Lake Hotel and Casino coming up. I won't be there, but maybe most of the folks who read the Minneapolis Star-Tribune would consider that. And then there's something called License to Thrill, Mystic Lake Casino and Hotel. Now, I assume they did a study and found that many of the viewers of the Minneapolis Star-Tribune might be interested in Mystic Lake. And again, it was their decision. The Minneapolis Star-Tribune's decision, do we sell for access? And by the way, the New York Times, I think, is starting to charge for access. I'm going to have to decide whether I'm going to try to just make do with their free portion or somehow loop in an online subscription. I do pay for the Wall Street Journal online. It's worth every penny. It's a good publication. But it's hard to strike that balance. What you are doing by not having, what this body is considering, by not having a net neutrality regime in place, is to add another party to this contract between me and the Star-Tribune and say, you know what, it's not good enough, Jared Polis and Star-Tribune, that they're letting you access it or you have to pay. There's also the provider. And you know what? You could have the providers say, you know what, we're not going to serve up these ads. We're going to serve up our own ads. You know what? We're not going to give you access to the Star-Tribune unless you buy our Newspaper Plus service for an extra $14.95 a month. You're changing the value chain in a way that is unprecedented and conveying enormous value. Conveying enormous value because you're putting them in charge of the whole internet, of the providers and the bandwidth and the pipelines. Yes, they are important to have. And yes, they need to have a return on investment. And yes, they support the FCC rules as a fair way to do that. Yes, given their dithers, would they rather have a reach and control the internet? Sure. They'd rather control all the ad space on every newspaper and every other website. But they know that's a reach. There's no serious market valuation that's given by investors or investment analysts to that reach scenario that would threaten and kill the very internet itself by interspersing a third party on my private agreement with the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. That's why we need to have a free and open internet for all, to ensure that there's not another party that comes in and steals the intellectual property and the usage of others and conveys it to their own advantage. And that's exactly what the very reasonable FCC rules have put into rule. I reserve the balance.